I could be provocative and say architecture, but that's a cul-de-sac. I don't. It's quite an impossible question, actually, isn't it? It's quite an impossible question. It doesn't. They don't. They do their own thing. They don't. They run parallel. They don't. They don't have that requirement to express architecture. Only architecture can express itself. I think that they have their own duties as media. I like print very much. I like print an awful lot. Yeah. Uh, I think print. I think writing is. I think making of books is a great interest. Yeah. I don't really do art. Uh, I don't think it's art. I think it's all various kinds of architecture, but essentially it's all about how most of the exhibition work and the small works that I've made, the things that kind of border more closely with public art, are more intimate and have a more often have a more aggressive engagement with the public, and are more and seek more attention and are more hungry for response. So that those reactions are amplifications which kind of feed back into maybe the slower work, the buildings, and that those kind of proximities and complexities feed, I think, the buildings, if you like. So that intimacy helps, I think, and scale, just the scale of the encounter that you can make in, say, an exhibition can actually magnify itself into a room for an exhibition or a building for an exhibition, those kind of proximities. I think that the proximity and the cross pollination of all the arts is essential in informing a new architecture. There's no question of that, and I think that there are territories that can be ambiguous and exploited for the benefits of any of the media. It seems to me that a lot of ground from the capital A of architecture has been lost to other media and possibly could do with being reclaimed, in very straightforward ways, in that the applied arts in the old-fashioned sense of, say, the arts and crafts movement is very interesting. The way, say, people like Burgess and so on would use construction as a layered device to incorporate the arts in a more additive way, rather than, say, for instance, the way wayfinding is done now. The ideal connection. Well, I mean, what you have here looks pretty incredible. I can hear music coming in the window, and it's about as close as it can get, I suppose. And the influences then can't really be documented, but I'm sure are very real. Ideal? I don't know. I mean, there have been lots of exercises in the 20th century, famous ones, which have documented results, and whether they were ideal or not, I don't know either. I'm not sure that I know. I'm not sure I have a decent answer for you about that. It's a hard question. Because Well, there's the ideal, and there's the. I think that the arts is nebulous somehow. I mean, I find the term is very, 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 very kind of intangible, more and more and more so. And I find the sort of distance between architecture and the arts less and less, useful either somehow. I think that in a way there seems to be a kind of polarity there, which in my mind doesn't really exist. I think it's all one thing. Yeah, but I'll tell you about it, right? Because it might answer the question more simply. That is just this extraordinary thing that was made on the west coast of Ireland in a very beautiful place that's protected by a developer who went bankrupt and was so annoyed that he built it one weekend illegally. So he did this. He did this surreptitiously. Well, not quite, and then he was stopped by the planning authorities. So he built this incredible henge, very roughly made, but very powerful thing, in the middle of a moorland overlooking the sea, as a statement, but as a silent statement. Very architectural thing to do, and then it became a court, because I don't know if you've found, but there's a little text as well that goes with that, which is basically when the local authority then took him to court. They took him to court, and he said, "It's a garden ornament. I don't need permission to do it, and it's common land." And that was thrown out of court, and then it went to the High Court, and so. You can read the court reports of where the inspector has to go and look at this thing and judge it as to whether it is legal or illegal. And essentially it comes down to what function does it have. And the developer, is arguing that the function is the sublime, which the authority don't recognize as a legitimate function, and therefore it must be demolished. Meanwhile, the developer has gone to Switzerland and is bankrupt, so he won't demolish it. So the public purse, the people, must demolish that circle of concrete. But the people have become very fond of it and enjoy it, and it's got an amazing acoustic and so on. So it starts to ask really, really interesting questions about, for me anyway, about monuments. What's a monument and how does it work and what does it operate on? And there was all these questions in Ireland about how could you mark the collapse of the economy, and questions like that are very interesting. And we just thought, myself and Peter Maybury just thought that it was a very interesting thing and it should be recorded. It was simply a question of documentation. So Peter likes to make, Peter shot it, but it was really just we just wanted to just very simply make a field recording of it. That's why it's shot in that way. You'll see the way it's cut back, and I think the sound as well is all field recording as well. So it's strictly a document, and indeed the report, although it's adjusted for effectively comedy, is still a document as well. So your question then is, should architects be doing that, or should graphic designers, as Peter is, be doing that? And should we be talking about architecture? Absolutely. I think that the way that it's cut and the way that it's shot and so on is, maybe it's made by an architect as well as a graphic designer. So I suppose it must be a piece of architecture. Therefore, we're making another one now, which is a kind of a sister document to that, which starts to make a point in another way. I think the point of view of architects, how they see things and how they shoot things, that's interesting for sure. Does that help? So you watched it all, yeah? You see, the other thing in it is the gunnera. Did you notice the gunnera at the beginning? You know those there's it looks like rhubarb. It looks like giant rhubarb. But that's, you see, that's an invasive species in that place as well, because that was a Victorian plant. Well, the Victorians imported that plant from South America, and it's gone wild. And now it's illegal to plant that plant in that part of Ireland. Whereas on the other side of Ireland, I have it growing in my garden. You can buy it in a plant shop. You know, so there's this question of importation and what's legal and what's illegal and so on. That's what that film is really about. Like, there's no planning permission for that plant either, although it's illegal to be there, but they can't get rid of it because of the way it reproduces. So it's kind of a question about development. Does that make sense? Yeah. And These Islands, the title, is because of these islands is the mutually agreed term for England, Ireland, Scotland and Wales. If without saying United Kingdom or the British Isles, these islands is the term that's used for the archipelago, which I think is kind of nice.